Do I give for our next speaker? He's a pan-India film star who's made himself an impactful career as an actor, screenwriter, producer, and a director. But this is just a part of the picture. Apart from being a stellar actor and a great public speaker, he has taught communication and public speaking at workshops around India.
He is also an NCC cadet who has received training from the British Army, the Royal Navy, and the Royal Air Force. He represented India as the Young Businessman Conference in Japan and has also served as the cultural ambassador to India. He also cares deeply about humanitarian causes, having raised awareness and funds for various important issues. He has won the Compassionate Kid Award and has been recognized as the Person of the Year by PETA. You know what, I won't keep you guys waiting any further. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome R Madhavan. Lol, joking. No, he's coming, just give us a minute. So, that was anticlimactic.
Good things take time, so I think just hold on to it and Mr. R Madhavan will be with us.
Okay, ready? Ladies and gentlemen, R Madhavan.
Good evening guys. Jam-packed auditorium, lovely to see. I hope it's been a lovely summit so far. Can't thank Madhavan enough for being here among all of us. I don't think there can be a better climax, as we call it in the movies, to ILS than what we have today. The underlining theme of the summit today is prism of possibilities, right? So here's a guy who, when he was pushing his 40s, played a college-going kid, and when he was a little beyond 40, played an 80-year-old scientist who's among us in flesh and blood, both with equal elan. And after taking those punts or those risks, he can still go on and say all is well. So, Maddie, thank you again for being among us. Let's cut the chase loose and hit this. Prism of possibilities, Maddie, and your career right through over the 2 decades as an actor and now as a filmmaker, producer, director, writer has certainly been full of possibilities that have been explored, untapped, and been turned into things that truly add to a great legacy. Let's actually speak, before we really speak about how the building was built, let's speak about the foundation, about the early years. Maddie, you come from a family that has absolutely nothing to do with the business of entertainment. Of course, while it's a sector that's very glamorized, that makes people, fall in love with the glam and the glitz of it. Back then, what was it that drew you to the possibility of being an actor?
Fine, okay.
The science graduate succeeds.
I just wanted to answer his question with just one word and say, money. That's. But I don't think that's a proper way to begin. So first of all, I'd like to tell you all that I'm thoroughly had no choice but to come here because Akshay Rathi possesses the most persuasive skills I've ever met in any individual. So if there's a large amount of film industry coming here and gracing your occasions, it's all thanks to him because he frightens you as an exhibitor. Thank you. I'm really privileged and very honored, and I'm very touched to see a rather packed hall, so the pressure is all on me. But let me just jump into it quickly and not make this into a technical affair. Let me start off with what I was lucky enough to garner a lot of life experiences before I became an actor. So while I was born as a South Indian, as a Tamilian, I was born and brought up in Bihar. So with Tamil, my Hindi was also an asset. Knowing how the Biharis live, knowing how the Tamilians live, all that, inadvertently was driving me towards the film industry because I realized much earlier on in my life that I would not be happy or even safe in a 9-to-5 job that requires me to go to the same place like my father did over and over again, do the same job, have the greatest amount of loyalty for Tata Steel, and exhibit it. And actually, if you go to any Tata Steel employee's house, even today, you'll see Jamshedji Nausharwanji's Tata's photo stuck over there with a mala. Am I right? Yeah, there you go. So that's what loyalty meant at that point of time. I had to get out of Jamshedpur, where I was born and brought up, because Jamshedpur, Bihar, anybody? Oh, all right, great. So I think the instinct to probably get into the film industry was born with my first ever desire as an individual. And I remember I was 7 or 8 years old, and I used to watch Mr. Ratan Tata or Mr. Marusi Modi and the bigwigs and big guns of Tata Steel. They'll walk into a room and they will have the ability to just draw everybody's attention to them. So I remember very earlier on in my life, my first desire was that I should walk into a room and everybody's eyes should be on me. even if it was briefly. So the second thing that I remember distinctly that was very important in my formative years is I got an opportunity to be an exchange student on behalf of Rotary, and I went to Canada as an exchange student, and I went to a place called Stettler, which was a wild, wild west. It is it's a cowboy country. I lived with cowboys. I'm a hardcore vegetarian, but I lived with families that slaughtered cows for a living. So all that was adharma for me. But what was the biggest adharma was, I was a basketball player, and I went into the school basketball team, and getting into the school basketball team was considered to be a huge achievement and especially for an Indian like me who was not even 6'2". I was, I think they kind of pitied me, so they said he's working so hard, so let's go le lete. We went to play a match in the next town, and like it happens over there, in the next town, you play the match, and then you come back to the boys' locker room, and then you get into the shower, you have a shower, and you go back and stay the night over there. My ordeal started when I had to go into the shower. Because unlike what it is today, anybody who's played college sport will know that when you go to the men's shower, it is just one pillar with 6 shower heads around it. And all the boys go there like the God made them. And they take a shower together. It's the most normal thing for them to do. For me, the nervousness of playing the bloody game was not as much as having to go to that shower, being from this very, South Indian family where, you barely sit with, bare clothes, and now I had to walk in naked into the shower to have a shower. I did not know how I was going to muster up walking there, and so I decided to say, to hell with it. I'm going to wear my underwear and not take that off. There is a reason why I'm telling you this. When I went into that shower wearing just my underwear, and the rest of them were not wearing anything, I cannot tell you how naked I felt. Because nobody was looking at each other. They were all like, what is he hiding? And I had to do that repetitively for 7 days. Because the tournament happened for 7 days, and every day I would say, nah, today I'm not going to be the one who everybody's going to look at. Today I'm going to do it. And after the 3rd day I realized that's not me. I'm never going to be comfortable, so I kept myself covered for 7 days. It was during that time that I realized that if your instincts are telling you that you're going to be uncomfortable doing something, And if you do have the guts to actually not go with what is considered a norm, then you will have the ability to feel comfortable with yourself. And that was a very essential quality to get into the film industry. Because when I came into the film industry and I got introduced by Mani Ratnam, the norm was to wear green pants and orange shirt and go and dance in Switzerland. I did that too. But what happened was, while I was doing this one particular song in Interlaken in Switzerland, and I'm wearing green pants and orange shirts, after all my life experiences of doing electronics, management, conducting, going to England with, the Royal Army and Navy and Air Force and training, everything, finally you come there and you're actually dancing. And there was a farmer sitting on a coffee store nearby, having his coffee, and he's looking at me, and he's like, he had the most disgusted expression because my choreographer was saying, okay, ready, 5, 6, 7, 8, ready, go. And I'm like humping, and I'm like moving my hip around. And I looked at him and I said, hey, come to Chennai, you don't know who I am, man. And that was a very crucial point in my life. You know, you're saying, going with the topic, because I then suddenly had this out-of-body experience saying, what are you doing, Maddie? You know, you are electronics graduate, you know how to fly a plane, you know, in the public speaking, you conduct courses on communication skills, you're a biker, you know, you played basketball for the state, but I was using none of that experience in the movies that I was doing. And it required the guts of having to wear that underwear in the basketball situation to actually come back, manifest myself and say, no, that is not me, yaar. You don't put me in this pant and shirt and make me dance, because I realize that I have 16 and a half left feet. I can't entertain the people with my dancing. So let me just wear my underwear, and started doing the kind of films that I thought I'll be able to entertain the people with. And that's why I was able to kind of get a foothold into the industry. It took a little while, it took a little bit of guts, but coming on to yourself and realizing who you are and what you're capable of doing and what your talents actually are made a huge impact in me having to sustain myself, having to start in a smaller way. You know, it takes a lot of guts to actually take 2 steps down in the film industry. When everybody says that, you know, out of sight is out of mind and you cannot take a sabbatical and you should, you know, have one movie after the other, or people will think that you don't have a market. For me to take a sabbatical for 4 years, to reinvent myself and come back with a film like Sala Kudus or Idris Sutu took a lot of guts. And that's probably the instinct that I've relied on to stay alive and relevant in the industry.
Got it. Maddie, 2 notions, right, which kind of got shattered early in your career. So back in the day when you started almost 2 decades ago, there was never, barring possibly you and Mr. Shah Rukh Khan, hardly any examples of people who did TV and also made it in a big way in films. And the second was this whole thing which now is coined as a pan-India star, but you're one guy who's been doing Hindi and Tamil and various other languages for a fair bit of while. What, again, was the underwear in the locker room moment that actually made you take those leaps of faith, which were very against the conventional beliefs back in the day?
It's a very relevant question. So I question why the film industry by itself is called a film industry, because the rate of success of films is less than 7%. For every 100 films that are made, there's only 7% success. So there is no reason why one should actually look at it in the traditional industrial sense, which also means that every norm that is being created, every stereotype that is being talked about, or every rule that is being talked about is irrelevant till you're able to prove otherwise. So with Mr. Shah Rukh Khan, I remember when I joined the film industry, before that I had done 1,800 episodes on TV. And you know, everybody in the film industry or the TV industry said, you're so overexposed, you'll never become a film actor. And I said, yaar, I never came to be an actor in the first place. I'm a very reluctant actor because I never came to Bombay to act. I've never been to an acting school or a direction school or anything to do academically as far as the entertainment industry is concerned. It just happened by the way. And then I ended up doing 1,800 episodes. And then they said, you're overexposed, you'll never do a film in your life. And then, lo and behold, I got a call from Mani Ratnam. And I do a Tamil film. Now, when I do a Tamil film, they said they will never accept you in the Tamil industry because you're so fair and you're more of a North Indian guy. And they told me that you're doing a romantic film, you'll never be accepted as a romantic hero because they don't like married heroes. And so the publicity department came and told me, Maddie, when you do the press conference, of course, don't talk about your marriage. We know you got married just 6 months before the release of the film, Alai Payude, which is Sakhi in Tamil, Telugu. So they said, don't talk to the media and tell them you're married because the film will flop. So I went to Mani sir and I said, Mani sir, they're asking me to lie. So he's another guy. He said, like, do whatever you want. That's all he said. Do whatever you want. I think it was an insult to him saying that, just because a hero is married, Mani Ratnam's film is going to flop. That's not not a right picture. And so I went for the press conference and truly, like, hi media, how are you? Media guys. So truly, like all the media is expected to do, the first question that they asked me was, sir, I believe you are married and your wife is here and everything. Are you going to be confident that the film is going to do well and be accepted as a romantic audience, a romantic hero to the audience? And I said, at that point of time that, hey, listen, I've come here as an actor and I'm portraying a character. And I cannot, in my life, this woman who I'm married to, who's beside me, I cannot ignore her and pretend she doesn't exist because I think that's really humiliating. So I'm really sorry that if I don't become a romantic hero, then it's fine. But I want to say that I want to take that risk at the risk of not having to disrespect my wife. Now that interview went like viral. And there was immediate acceptance. And so that norm that traditionally married heroes won't work was completely broken. Similarly, when they said that now you're a Tamil hero, you'll never be able to do Hindi films because you're so Tamil. And then Rana Tere Dil Mein happened, and Three Idiots happened, and Guru happened, and so that next myth got broken. Then they said that what is a third thing? They also said that one film wonder. The first film didn't, and by the way, I don't know if you all know, but the Hindi remake of Cheli, which was Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein, was a flop when it was released. I am the king of actors whose film posthumously becomes hits after they die in the theaters, Kannathal Muttamital, Anbe Sivam, all these were, huge disasters on when they released in theaters. So like Shah Rukh, who broke the norm and just worked his charm through, there was a lot of strength in accepting who I was, not adhering to the norms because the facts were staring at my face saying nobody really knows. And so there's no harm in giving, take a tentative foot forward if you have to, but then once you find firm ground below that, take the leap. And that's always been my formula.
Got it. And I guess the other area where the shackles were really shattered was, so here's the thing, right? For anybody who starts to succeed, the stereotypical way forward is to consolidate that success. And here's a scenario where you started off with a certain film, the first success always encourages you to try and repeat it or to try and build on it. But after that, you go on to play a college student in Three Idiots, a boxing coach in Sala Khadoos, a journalist in Guru, a rocket scientist in Rocketry, and everything else that you've done. And ironically, the brilliance of an actor is defined by the versatility that he can bring to the table. And despite that, we don't see too many of them doing that and playing to what is perceived as their strength, which gets them early success. So what was the thought process behind trying to, to break the success that you just achieved and trying to reinvent a new success with every film or every project?
I have a very insightful question. So, this is a formula that I've always followed, and I think it's worked for me in my management of my career. One is that, every time I have to take an important decision, I reassert and ascertain the facts many times over and over again. The data, the facts, I go over it as many times as possible. Once I've done that, then I try to look beyond the obvious and see what the source of that data is. Where is it coming from? What is the intention behind the person who's giving me that data? Sometimes you hold people in high esteem, but it's not necessary that the information they give you and however much sincerity, that it actually bears resemblance to what you're looking for or has any impact on what you're trying to analyze. The third thing I always do is I make sure that the decision I'm about to take is looking beyond the obvious. What is the data that is in front and what is the reason that this data is being provided to you? And then I don't overthink it. I go to sleep on it. And more often than not, when you're sleeping, questions start popping up on your mind. You know, subconsciously there is restlessness as far as that decision is supposed to be taken. And it's actually my mind screaming out saying, Maddie, you don't have enough data, so don't take that decision yet. So you wait till you know for sure that that's where the data, the facts, and your instincts kind of combine to help you take a decision. So when everybody was doing the same kind of films, when it was so easy for me to do Run or Cheli or Minlele and do those kind of films to consolidate your success, I was seeing all around me that the ability or the intention to replicate the success in that way was falling flat on its face. People were not ready to accept that in a creative process, you're able to create a mold that you want to keep making movies over. So that was the first thing that I analyzed and understood, that I needed to create a variety of stories and characters for me to work. The second thing is, I did not possess the ability to dance like some of my colleagues. They were extraordinary dancers and action people, and I have 15 and a half left feet here, so I did not want to dance. So I was trying to find avenues which I would be able to entice the audiences in. So when it comes to the barrage of roles that you're talking about, like I said in the beginning, my life experiences had been preparing me. So even though, for instance, it's a very interesting fact, in Rang De Basanti, I only had a 9-minute role as Captain Rathod. And that entire 9-minute role, I'm going to take a little time and tell you this. So Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra wanted me to play Siddharth's role in the beginning, and I was actually doing a film called Tambi, so I had long hair. I couldn't do that because they wanted me to cut my hair, grow my hair, look like Bhagat Singh and everything. So Amir said, you should do Captain Rathod's role. So I said, what is the role? And they explained the scenes to me, and I was actually aghast. I said, you want me to play a sincere friend for whom the friends are ready to give up their lives? You want me to play a sincere lover for who Soha Ali Khan is actually able to motivate all the friends to do it? You want me to play a proper patriot where all the friends will think it's enough, it's worthy of giving their lives for this guy? You want me to play a perfect son, and you're giving me 9 minutes? I said, you have to prove one thing, you have to do a movie here. So Rakesh Om Prakash said, well, that's why we are casting you. I didn't know what he meant. No, I don't think that was a compliment. I think that was him giving me a wise answer, that's all. But then I remember going back to when I'm saying there is only one way that this character is going to work. And that one way is that if at the end of my role, they think that, God forbid, but Maddie actually died and not Captain Rathod. There should be a gloom, because you don't really see how the person dies. I said, there should be a gloom of knowing, oh God, did Maddie just leave us and go? Okay. And so I said, don't direct me. Don't tell me how to play this character. My life experiences are enough. I know how a Fauji stands. I know how an Air Force officer salutes. I know how to be a son, hopefully. I know. And so all the other, but I'm saying, don't ask me to do it in a particular way. Just give me the freedom. So I was just being myself, the way I was talking, the way I was expressing the ideas. It was just the way I would do it. Koi bhi country perfect nahi hota was how I would actually say it in real life. It was not meant to be said any other way. And that was able to consolidate and make sure that you really felt that, oh, Captain Rathod actually died. So to play that character, the kind of life experiences that I had was enough to give me the confidence to say, I can do it. Of course it was a leap of faith when we were all 40 years old and trying to play college students. But I'll tell you how the reverse psychology worked. Because when we looked at, if we were all 40-year-olds, and we went to the IIT campus, and Raju Rani and Vidhu Vinod Chopra were saying, Maddie, lose weight, look thin, make sure, which is all what my directors always say, but I'm just saying. And then he said, look younger, this is the best way to look younger. And I went to the college campus of IIT and I said, what the hell? They're all fatter than me. I said, I'm going to go clean shaven and I'm just going to be myself. And then we did that, Sharman, me and Amir. We just got clean shaven, got into the clothes, and we took a picture with the IIT students. And I can promise you, we were looking the youngest. Because those guys are all bearded, half of them already gone grey by the time they're 23. So it was an eye-opener. So, it wasn't difficult for people to swallow that we could be college students. And because it required us to play from college students to professionals at the end of it. So, looking beyond the obvious and dipping into your life experiences helped me confidently portray these roles.
Right, and while there was that leap of faith or that brave attempt to go from TV to films, among the earliest actors to go back from films to home entertainment, among the earliest film actors that I can think of, you did Breathe, and then of course you did Decoupled, which I'm sure a lot of you have had a lot of fun watching, and there's more coming. So. In these changing times, with the advent of streaming that's becoming more and more stronger by the day, and this equally convenient, equally exciting avenue of entertainment, which exists besides terrestrial television and films and a whole lot of other recreational avenues, with all of this choice, this buffet at your disposal, how do you now go about making choices in terms of, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what adds to the end game that I see for myself as an actor in the context of legacy?
Great. So, there's data around the world that's always constantly available. You just have to dip into it, right? When the OTT platforms were coming into India, I realized that it's a double-edged sword. If my first venture into OTT ends up becoming a failure, then they will say, "Picture to chali nahi, ye television bhi nahi chal raha iska," and it's a true risk. So. Also, I realized that the kind of content that you need to show on OTT will be competing with the world, which very few people understood that earlier on when we did Breathe. When I first did Breathe on OTT, there were people who had made films that were not releasing in theaters. They said, "Chalo usko OTT mein release kar dete." And that was the easiest solution. And a worse decision cannot be taken, because a film that is not worthy of theaters will definitely not be worthy of OTT, and obviously they were all trying to get as much content as possible, so they thought there was success in it, but it all fell flat on its face. I knew that if I was going to do something in OTT, it has to be of world standards, that where the performances are not over the top, you got realistic stories, and the one I selected was Breathe after a lot of scrutiny, and I was thankfully correct. So Breathe turned out to be a great success. Now, when answering your question, how do I select between these three mediums? Let me tell you that the most difficult medium out of this to get yourself successful and put something on would be the OTT. Okay, even though cinema looks like a grander scale, but for OTT, the kind of commitment you require as an actor is far greater than to do a 3-hour film. So if you're doing for example, let me tell you about Breathe. As an actor, if I was doing 8 episodes of Breathe at 40 minutes, you're talking about 320 minutes, which is close to right now 3 films, right? You don't know when you're shooting a 50-day schedule which scene you're going to do on the first day, whether it'll be the 6th scene of the 9th episode, or the first scene of the 2nd episode, or which, right? So your ability to maintain continuum in your performance has to be so sharp. You've got to know exactly where you're leaving, which scene where, and to be able to connect through it at 50 days at any given point of time. It's so easy to do that when you're doing a film, because in that 40 days, it's just 3-hour content. But if this is going to be 320 minutes, and each episode has, say, 15 scenes, you have to be very, very careful and astute and smart to do that. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, in the West, if you're doing one such series, you're forbidden from doing anything else. They provide you with enough money to sustain yourself the way you know, and so you're not really shooting for anything else except Friends or Breaking Bad or any of the series that you've been seeing. You're just doing that, and for 8 and 10 years that becomes your life. Unfortunately, that we can't do in India because there are no residuals. You finish once, you're done, and then you have to look for other work, or you have to look for work in between what you're doing. So the most important decision that I have to make right now when I hear content is this worthy of screen? Is it worthy of 8-episode series on OTT, or is it worthy of an OTT film? That is the most crucial decision, and then you have to make sure that everybody involved in that project is thinking on the same lines. If that boxes are all ticked, then it becomes easy for me to say, yeah, I'm interested in doing this.
Got it. And then, of course, a more recent thing that happened, you decided to turn director, writer, producer, besides being an actor, with rocketry. Incidentally, I'm sure you realize between Rang De Basanti, 3 Idiots, rocketry, you have incidentally been a part of a lot of films that have gone beyond just entertaining and that have actually had social impact in the true sense on the ground. And Rocketry, of course, is the most recent of them, which really became India's crown jewel at the Cannes Film Festival earlier this year. Became a film that had
Thank
so
you.
much of impact, brought forth the story of a rocket scientist who was possibly under-celebrated or not as celebrated as he deserved to be, and has really opened the eyes of a nation towards people who work in the background and take the nation forward in the true sense. What made you take that decision? And I'm not talking about the decision of directing, but choosing that story to tell.
I think that everything that was possible in that film was essentially because I related so much to Nambi Narayan's story. You know, it went beyond being a story. It went from somewhere sympathizing with him, then getting upset at what happened to him, and then getting, involved personally with every aspect of that story, and then getting angry at us as a nation and as a society. All that culminated in it becoming a passion for me. It became like a all-encompassing, the only thing that I could think of. I tried letting go of it many times. You know, I tried saying, "Chhod de yaar, this is too complicated. Let's not do this." But it just kept coming back to me at night. You know, and then I saw one interview of Mr. Nambi Narayanan, and I saw him with tears in his eyes. And I just, like I've said this before, I got up and I clapped and I said, "What the hell are you doing? This is a story you need to say." And so it was very tentative steps, because when I went, I don't know how many of you have heard my interview, but I wanted to do this story. I met Mr. Nambi Narayanan. I realized that half his story was not known to the world, and even he was not talking about what he had done for the sake of the country. He was still talking about the case and how unjust it was. And I was the one who prodded and found out, "My God, you're the one who made the Vikas engine, you're the one who did this, and you're not wanting to talk about it." And then I realized most patriots don't consider the patriotic duty as anything else except a job that they do and get paid for, even if their lives are at stake. And that's extraordinary, and that's something that I wanted to, it became, so I decided to get a producer for it. So when I went to a producer and said, "This is the movie I want to do," the first thing they said is, "Oh, very good, sir, who's the heroine?" I said, "There's no heroine." Okay, then they said, "How many fight sequences and dance sequences?" I said, "There are no fight sequences or dance sequences." Then they said, "Okay, so, anything commercial about it?" I said, "No, sir, no commercial aspect of it. It's just a story." Then they said, "No producer also, sir. Please, you really don't think you're fools to put in money to something like this." So I ended up becoming the producer. I could not find somebody in the industry to write his story, because being an engineering subject, being about rocket engines, being about the Vikas engine by itself, and understanding the rocket science behind it and making it palatable to the audiences, I couldn't find a writer because nobody was interested in it. Unfortunately, the Hindi film industry or the Indian film industry doesn't have a scientific arm to it. The Hollywood film industry, if romance doesn't work, if Broadway doesn't work, if the westerns don't work, Steven Spielberg gave them science fiction. It became a very successful a genre for Hollywood to rely on. But we don't have that. So I ended up writing it myself. I've never written anything before, so I ended up writing it myself because I understood the subject. I wanted to act in it because every actor imagines himself doing a lifetime story like Nayak, and I've always been a big fan of Mani Ratnam and seen Kamal Hassan depict many ages. So I thought I'll act into it. I wasn't supposed to direct it till my director, who was, supposed to direct the film, for some reason fell off the bandwagon in the last minute. And so the question was, should we drop the film and forget about the money we had invested so far, or Madhavan, do you want to direct it? And Nambi Narayanan sir, for some reason, believed that I had the quality to direct it. Now, I have not directed one iPhone film in my life. I really haven't been to it's always great to be the hero on a set, man. You pretend to be all involved with the story. You come on the set the first day and like, "Arey sir, good, already all set. What time is pack up today?" That's the first question every actor asks. "What time do we finish?" And then you wait for the film to get over, you do your job, you get your money, and then you wait for the publicity, and then you pretend to be really nervous, because the real person who's nervous is the producer, but you just act like you're being nervous, then you walk away and you do a next film. But a director's job is far more involving, right? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the crux of what I want to say. With God's grace, at the IMDb top 250 films of all times coming out of India. I've just been informed today that Rocketry is at number 1. And I think if I look back at how that happened, I can't tell you how nervous I was on the first day of shoot. I kept asking Nambi Narayanan, how did you make your Vikas engine? You know, tell me, when everybody believed that was not possible, when nobody has made a rocket engine from India, what did he do? And he had told me multiple times, he says, Maddie, the only way to achieve success is to build a team and trust it. I remember seeing Tarantino's interview. He went, and I did all this research. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of my talk. I did all this research, and I saw Tarantino say that when I wanted to become a director, I would go onto the set to observe other great directors, and they would come on the set and set up a shot and say, it's not working, I'm not feeling the magic, it's not happening. And I'm saying, I don't know what was not working, what is the magic he's looking for? Because I can see through the camera that guy is acting, this is what you've written, it should come. So I thought I could never be a good director because I didn't understand what that magic is. Till he went to an old timer who said, your job is to get a story and believe in every aspect of it. Then find a team that shares that vision. Sit with them, romance them, take them out for dinner, see their weaknesses, see their strong points, and see if they share their dream with you. Their past experiences from you should not matter. If that particular story, how are they involved? Are they giving you the right vibe? And when you find such a team, then just give them the freedom to execute it. And that's exactly what I did with Rocketry. I've never been to an editing room. I do not know what to tell an editor. But I just told my editor, please tell me if I'm overstepping my line. But if I want to do this, how do I tell you this? I've never been to a music recording. I've never been to an effects studio. I do not know. Like I remember going and meeting the team and giving them an entire spiel about what I wanted the rocket engine to look like and how it is supposed to do. Only to realize that my assistant director came and said, sir, that is the VFX department. You're talking to the CG department. And I said, I'm glad you got more information than you require. But eventually, it was just coming down to putting the whole team together, trusting them. And I came down to the first day of shoot, and I remember feeling completely like the day I felt in the locker room. Honestly, I just felt like everybody's looking at me saying, oh my God, now he's going to screw up. And strangely, I got a call from a friend of mine in the US, and he said, hey, wish you all the very best. I said, Babu, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue. Most people take a small fictional story to tell as their first film. Maybe they shoot it on an iPhone. Here, I'm shooting a film in 3 languages, over 8 countries, put all my money where my mouth is. I really don't know where to begin. I just don't know whether I should go on with this. And he said, Maddie, it's just one shot at a time. You're already there. Everything is just set up. Just take that first shot. Now, see if you're getting it. No, I'm done. If you don't think you're getting it, just pack up and go. I mean, you're already done. But just take that one shot. And then take that, if you feel confident, take the next shot. And that's exactly what happened. I was, for the first time in the history of Indian cinema, we were shooting shooting a film in 3 languages. So all my artists spoke Tamil, Hindi, and English. They all had to look like rocket scientists. Everybody I cast had to be real. And there was sync sound, no dubbing, so you have to get your pronunciations right. So whether they were saying specific impulse or escape velocity, they should look like they were talking about it all their lives. So I just remember taking that very first shot. And it was not like any other director taking his first shot, because I was in my first shot. So, I used to come to the set in the morning as a producer, do my job and throw him out, then get into the set as a director, set up the shot, then throw him out, then get into Nambi Narayan's character, go be there on my first shot, and I shot it. And I came back and I looked at it and I said, it might just work. And so, one shot at a time, and then here we are today.
Before I move to the last leg of questions that I have before we open it to the house, I really must say you're being extremely rude and mean to the Hindi entertainment industry. Sure, we don't have science fiction, but we have fictional science. But that about Maddie, as an actor, right? Here's the thing. Uh, Being an actor is doing a job that is scrutinized by the public at large at every step. You work to cater to the audience, right? And despite that, the irony of this job, and especially when you get more and more successful, is that you tend to alienate yourself from the audience at large. It becomes a little tough for you to move around as a normal citizen would. How do you keep in touch with the pulse of the people that you aspire to entertain or to, make an impact on? What are your eyes and ears? What's your modus operandi to keep in touch with the reality on the ground?
Wow. So the easiest thing is to replicate your success. The moment you get into the desire of wanting to replicate your success in the way that you've done it, you can be rest assured that your first step towards regression and being thrown out of the industry. The second thing I realized as part of the process was that the audiences was evolving at a much faster rate than the makers were. Okay, so you went from actors saying, please, begging the audience, saying, please, aap mere mata pita ho, please come to the theaters. I'm here because of you, and please watch it in the theaters. And the audiences were actually treating them also like servants. And it's very important. And you look towards the West at some times, and they're great at setting examples, right? None of the actors were doing that there. They were very confident about who they were. The makers were very confident about who they were. And then I realized they were because they were professionally extremely qualified. It's a fantastic industry with great amount of money to be made at a very short time, and there's fame and fortune. And, although all actors and celebrities might pretend like we are very exhausted with people noticing us and there is no privacy, I can assure you every one of them is lying. Because you try take that away from them for one day, then the bugger's glasses will come off, then he'll get up in the plane, "Arey, koi dekha ki nahi dekha bhai?" Like, I'm here. The whole insecurity sets in, man. But the professionals who were showing movies and they were making movies, be it Top Gun, be it any of the films, it was well researched. They were high-end technocrats who were involved in the films. So I realized that I don't want to go down to kowtowing and begging people to come and saying, aap mere bhai bhai, because that's the way they're going to come. But the large screen demands that you become aspirational. The large screen will not forgive you for being at par with the audience. When you're lifting up your head and seeing it, you better make that character aspirational. So whether it be your dancing skills or your ability to have an 8-pack or your ability to kick above 3 times your head, as an action star, all that has to be, be awe-inspiring for the audience. If it is not, they lose respect for cinema. Now, the only thing that I could develop was not a 6-pack, but a decent family pack, which I live with very proudly. But having said that, I was trying to see which strengths I could play to, which keeps my characters aspirational. So when the time to metamorphosize comes, you really, I don't know how many of you all heard about, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go into this quick story, but do you know the American bald eagle story? And how it has to decide on whether to choose to live or die? And I'm going to tell you this because in a vastly changing scenario, you guys, who I'm very sure are going to be the leaders of the world tomorrow, are having to, will have to imbibe this of having to constantly evolve depending on what state of mind you are in personally. But as a professional, there is no time period for stagnation. There is absolutely no time period for stagnation. So to answer Rati's question, the only savior you're going to have is research and analysis. So the bald eagle, the American bald eagle, comes to a stage in its life, maybe when it's about 35 years old, it lives long enough, where its beak has grown so much that it's incapable of tearing meat. Where the talons have become so curved that it barely can catch its prey. And the feathers on the eagle is so full of fungus that it can barely fly. And it's impossible for it to dive down, catch its prey, and take it to its perch and kill it and consume it. So there comes to a point where the eagle has to decide, bhai, shall we say bye-bye and finish off and die of starvation or become prey, or do the flight of an eagle, which is it first uses its beaks to pluck out all its feathers. Then it uses its beaks to pluck out its own talons. It's a painful process, but it'll pull out all its talons, and then it'll bang its beak against the rock wall and break that. It'll break its beak, and then it goes into a cocoon. It just kind of waits with bated breath for all these aspects of its life to come back. So the feathers grow back, the nails, the talons come back, the beak comes back, and then there is the famous flight of the American eagle when it takes on to the second life. I have understood that as an actor, and I'm telling you as professionals, you'll have to break your beak and talons and pull out your feathers every year. Every year. And I do that, every year. And so coming to the last bit of your question, every year when I go onto the set for a new project, I cannot tell you the amount of nervousness I face when I do the first shot. However confident I look, however my experience, my favorite saying is sometimes I feel that I wish I was not burdened with the burden of my experiences, because it gets in the way of my progress. I wish that I didn't have it, because on the first day, I feel like my assistants have decided कि भैया ये तो बुद्धू हो गया, इसके acting नहीं आती, and let's find some other actor to go work for. I think the director is laughing at me. It all happens. And the reason I feel that nervousness, which is my savior, is because I don't take the star value seriously. The moment I let all your love and adulation make me feel like the emperor I should, then that nervousness goes away. So I have to keep myself safeguarded from the adulation, from feeling like an actor, from being privileged. So how do I do that? Like if I go to the airport, I make sure I stand in the line. However much the guy says, "Aap aa jao sir samne," I realize that there are 8 people who are saying, "Yalla, ye actor aa gaya, ye samne chala jayega," which I don't want to live with. So I try to keep myself, and it's not an act of humility. It's an act of survival for me. And so that's how I manage to handle it. Some people are very good at it. Some people like to walk around. I realize that when I walk into the airport, I don't need a bodyguard. If you walk as a normal person, nobody bothers you, and you request them, they're fine. Nobody's out to kill me. But if I want to be seen as a star, I know how to change that walk. I know how to make my presence felt. And sometimes you use it at times. At most times, you just want to be the common man.
Right, and we are at a premier educational institute, and therefore I must ask this. You spoke about the importance of research while we make our films and tell our tales. What do you think is the importance of, or the need for education around the entertainment industry? So while in the West you have some fantastic film schools, in India there are very few that you really know of. And despite the fact that India has a thriving entertainment industry, what do you think can be done to educate people who aspire to make careers in the entertainment sector, educated enough to step into it?
This is a question that I don't really have a practical answer to, because I'm privy to the information that it's an ever-evolving industry. So anybody who trained with anamorphic cameras finds himself at large when it comes to digital cameras. Just an example. If you could be trained in digital camera all your life and still feel insecure about it. So what is it that you can train somebody with for an industry that is changing by the day? The basics itself are changing. It's not like engineering or mathematics where rules apply and stick to it. Every time you make a path-breaking film, it's broken all the rules. So I've been pondering and questioning about what sort of training an actor should get or a technician should get. There is one thing for sure, that you have to know multiple professions to a great level to survive in the industry. So a dentist cannot say that I'm just going to learn about how orthodontry, I don't want to learn about AI or robotics, because you'll be left out of a job. Similarly, an actor cannot say that I'm only learning how to act, but he has to know every aspect of the film technicality to be able to survive. So I've always been thinking, what experiences can be shared by a teacher to a film student where he's not already become obsolete? My question is that, because this is exceptional to every rule. Like I said, if only 7% of the films are working, how do you prepare for it? Except for me, the only walking stick is life experiences. So I do that. I take breaks shamelessly, and I will go play golf, or I've promised myself that every year I will learn a new skill. So last year I learned how to captain a boat, or I learned how to do ham radios, or I want to know how to learn cooking, a lot of which I did during the COVID, and my wife has forbidden me to get into the kitchen after that, because cooking is easy, cleaning is a pain in the rare side. So I'm just saying, every year, But you know, but I don't know how else you can structure a course for it, and I'm quite lost actually for trying to find an answer to that question.
Got it. Either way, so one last thing before we open the house for questions from the audience. You know, you start getting fame, you earn money, you get a certain degree of adulation and love, you achieve a certain degree of success, and then you start chasing one thing that is way beyond all of this, which is possibly a stage that you are at right now, and that thing is legacy. What's the kind of legacy that you intend or that you want to have on the day that you possibly decide to hang your boots?
Akshay, I don't think people who create a legacy start off wanting to make one. It is just them following their heart. And it's just them delivering, anybody who's played golf will understand that when you want to look at a ball and you want to hit it as hard as you can because you want to take it as far away as possible, you'll probably not hit it as far as when you're actually taking full control of it and hitting it lightly where every part of your body is actually making contact with that ball. And any golfer will tell you that. Any skier will tell you that if you want to ski down the hill, the last place you look is down. You know, you can't ski because you're looking at every microscopic step that you're taking and you will fall. So as a skier, you have to look at the destination you want to go and your body follows it. As a diver, anybody will tell you, or as an athlete who's into gymnastics will tell you, the body follows where the head goes. So you don't want to try and manipulate your body. Just make sure your head looks and your body will follow. Similarly, the guys who are creating a legacy, I don't think they're actually wanting to create a legacy. You come to a period of your time in your life when you look back and say, you know, you've taken the path less trodden, you've been sincere to it. Not all of them have been successes, but your sincerity towards trying to achieve that and falling multiple times is what creates the legacy with that one correct project. And I think I don't want to take that microscopic step. I don't want to create a legacy. I just want to make sure I follow my heart. It served me well till date, and I hope it serves me well in the future.
That's been fantastic. Let's get going with the questions, and we already have a lot of them. Let's raise hands. We have Dwarka right there who will be moving around with the mic. Yes, the person right next to you, right there. Let's go with him.
Sure. Hi Madhavan. I'm Shiv. And we all know that Vedant Madhavan, your son, is a great swimmer, and he of course is not following the conventional path. And we are proud that his Abba Nahi Manenge movement has not come. But my question to you is that you also do not come from a filmy family, and you grew up in a Tata Steel family. So did you ever encounter Abba Nahi Manenge movement?
My answer to you is that I can promise you that every one of you have had an Abba Nahi Manenge moment. Be it the profession you want to follow, or in the future the guy you want to marry, or the girl you want to marry, or the profession you want to take up, or the fact that you don't want to go into the family business. Every one of those moments is an Abba Nahi Manenge moment. Okay, and please understand that the parents are not your enemies. They try their best to, with their limited experiences, try to do the best for you. But you really have to take the walking stick of Abba Nahi Manenge very seriously, but very gently and politely, and it's worked for me all the time.
Next question is yours.
Hi Madhavan, my name is Sirisha. So I have a question to you as a father, right? You have gone through many in your career, right? You are an actor, director, producer, and then you've been there in the army.
Hey, I still am.
Yes. So you are. So you have done various roles in your, in your life journey. So as a father, if you have to guide your son, if he comes to you and asks, what career should I take, or what is your suggestion for my future? What is that you would do? Because I, being a mother today, have done all this. I am a sportswoman, music, dance, and then into HR, and a lot of professions that I've taken up. I am so confused to suggest her. So you as a father, what is it that you would suggest to your son if he comes to you asking this?
I haven't completely become successful as a father yet. It's a work in progress. But I can share the benefit of my experience to you. I've realized that the kids nowadays are far wiser than we give them credit for. Okay? And I've realized the tools that have worked in my favor to achieve what I've managed to thus far. And the one word that I can tell you is grit. And when I mean grit, it's a mix between discipline and ambition. So I wanted to make sure Vedant had the ability to follow a routine. And if it involved getting up early in the morning, then 90% of my problems as a father is solved. Because if you are somebody who wants to get up early in the morning, and he got into swimming, and when he gets into swimming, he has to get up at 4 in the morning to train. The best part about getting up at 4 in the morning is that as a teenager, he has to go to sleep still at 8 o'clock at night. The problem starts after 9 o'clock only. So I have to keep an eye only after 9 o'clock at night. The second thing that I want to tell you is, you have to let them be. Okay, their exposure to today's world is far larger than us. So if they're able to follow a routine, if they're able to follow a process that involves them doing something over and over again because they like it, without you having to force them, then you can be sure that they're well on their way to achieve something. Because in today's world, like I was just telling you, in the fast changing scenario, you can't really micro-direct them to a profession, right? Unlike what our fathers used to do, they will not be sticking to one profession for their entire lifetime, unlike a lot of you people over here, and like a lot of us here. So the vastness of experiences is far more important than speciality today. So I say just let them be. Let's just make sure that they have this discipline of doing something over and over again for multiple years, as long as they're with you. Then you can be rest assured that they have the ability to apply themselves to whatever is their interest. And for them to peak at a much earlier stage today is far more important and relevant. And for them to be an expert in whatever, even if it is sewing a button, if they are the best at what they do by the time they're 21, they really have the ability to apply themselves. And I think that's the least common lesson that you can teach your child.
Right. Before we move to the next one, just a request. Let's keep the questions short and precise, please. Over to you. Yeah.
Hello, Madhavan. This is Shaurya. Thank you so much for inspiring us. I highly resonated with when you said, I'm not doing this. This is not me. However, that's when I remember that this is precisely the mindset that I personally have been trying to get out of, so that I can step out of my comfort zone. So my question is, how do you draw the line? How do you know when your lack of intent to do something is because it doesn't sit well with your core, or if it's just psychologically inconvenient for you?
Oh, it's going to happen over and over again, and for both reasons. You know, sometimes you'll find look, brother, what I'm trying to say is, you can sit down, it's fine. I'm just saying that every time you come up with a new idea, right? Every time you come up with a new idea and you want to go into head into a direction, then it's a given law that the old guard will not allow you to do that. Because when you find a new source, you're making them irrelevant, okay? So it could be an ideological problem or the fact that you're not committed to it. Like I said during the earlier talk, if you want to take that important decision and it doesn't let you sleep at night, and I'm telling you that's a specific situation, it's not metamorphical. I'm saying that if it doesn't really let you sleep at night, if it keeps you awake, if you wake up in the morning with that thought, then you can be rest assured that that's what your body or your mind wants to do. And you'll be able to commit to it. So if it does not, if it looks like it's influential of other things, all your friends are doing it, everybody's doing great, everybody's going to peak at a different age in their lives. So you cannot afford to compare their success with yours and wonder and question yourself at every turn. So I would say that both the situations apply. You just have to use, like I said, your instinct and question the source of your discomfort, and then take that decision.
Got it. We have someone here. Yeah.
Mr. Madhavan, I'm Raj Shekhar. We both traveled together in Jet Airways in 2005.
Was I polite?
That's from Hyderabad to Chennai, both of us were traveling to each other. The same way, how you're mentioning about the values and the kind of respect, mutual respect, all that. Throughout the airport, walking through and holding the bus, going to the aircraft and from there. But we didn't sit together, side by side, of course. I remember you were mentioning about, it's to be simple what you are mentioning now. It was exactly the same, how you were walking, how simple you were making your movement in a very, very ordinary presence among the public around the airport. Thank you so much for getting it. My only one question I would like to ask you. is that management, this happens to be the ISB, Indian School of Business, plus many other management institute students are here. Management in film industry is one. Does it really managed in a professional way or in a family managed way or a proprietor managed way, the producer? You can just tell me. And subject to one request to have a photograph with you. Yeah?
Well, thank you for validating what I said as a person in the airports. The second thing is, yeah, you require the most astute level of management in the film industry. Because you must understand that when a film starts, and let us say you're putting 60 crores into the film, then you have very pivotal aspects of the film that you cannot change. Once you've invested the 30 crores, you're working at the mercy of the actor and the actresses and the people without who the film cannot be completed. Unlike other industry, if you've invested 60 crores and you've done the film and it's ready and it doesn't work, then to show for your investment, you're just left with the disc. That's worth 60 crores, you know. So that management of the highest order is required. And most part of that management is actually people management. You know, the structure is very easy to formulate. It's a well-oiled machinery as far as the process is concerned. But people management, you know, adhering to people's egos, making sure you are the boss sometimes, or the friend sometimes, or the benevolent dictator sometimes, all that is extremely very important. Roles that most people don't have to play in their normal lives. And I really think that you do require the highest level of management skills in the film industry. And the photograph, of course, is...
We have one last question. Let's go for that.
I request the audience to kindly maintain the decorum of the auditorium. We have a last question.
A very good evening, sir. Over here.
Hi.
My name is Jigyasa, and I would like to first congratulate you on Rocketry, and I do hope it gets nominated in the Oscars. So putting that aside, as someone who has encompassed almost all the roles within the film industry, why do you think Indian films do not get that much success in the Oscars, whether be it in the nominations or winning the Oscars?
I think the ability to portray India as a sort of a struggling country, you know, and the kind of movies that we have sent to the Oscars and the kind of films that have been made about India are not actually in line with what India really is. You know, the West has learned to romanticize the idea of a struggling population of people who have to, you know, fight for their bread on a daily basis. I don't think that is what India is. With Fortune 500 companies, top 20 of them being led by Indians, it's about time. It's about time that we start portraying India the way it is. And I think that's not a popular concept in the West. And so we still end up sending films that show people struggling for water or struggling for food. And I think I'm kind of done with it. I hope that we're able to make films that show the progress of India, and then maybe we'll qualify as opposed to not qualifying. And I also think it's about time we have our own Oscars and don't look for validations in the West every time.
I guess that's a blockbuster session already. The applause shows it. Thank you, Maddie, for being here. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for inspiring this bright, young crowd that we have today, the future leaders of tomorrow in the true sense. I'm sure everything that they learned today from what you said will help them make the journey that they do going ahead and find them, you know, make them fly the eagle's flight with all its glory. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for being a lovely, lovely audience. Thank you.
We'd request the audience to just please sit down. For about 5 minutes, please. Sorry.
Aditya, 1 minute.
I'm sorry to disrupt you, but I'm not going to ask any technical question. It's very emotional. I work with kids, and I'm a huge fan of yours. So I keep telling kids about, you know, I watched this, that. So we had a Netflix series, Decoupled. And I got to know that it was not for underage people. But the kids loved you most. And today I flew down after dengue because they wanted me to have a picture with you. So I traveled 7 hours today and cancelled everything just to be here and tell my kids that, okay, I was here with you. And I want them, it's Gen Z, you know, they talk about Gen Z, and when I talk about the actors I like, they don't know. And I want them to know you, and I want them to watch everything you have done, every movie you have done, so that they know you exist and you existed so good. Yeah. Thank you so much.
That's a very compelling story. I have no choice but to give you a picture, so we'll take one with her. Come stand here, we'll take one. Take his number and take the phone.
I urge everyone to remain seated. We are under strict protocols until Madhavan doesn't leave the campus. I really urge you all to remain seated. And again, I thank you so much. While I'm beyond starstruck and about the conversation with Mr. Rathi, I'm also very, 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 very excited to see how properly you detailed out the filmmaking process. It was so simplistic and effective, and I really, really admire that. Now I would like to request Deputy Dean Professor Ram to present a token of gratitude to Mr. Madhavan and Mr. Akshay Rathi. I also request Mr. Madhavan to please sign the prism for us. Meanwhile, the team ILS can come upstage for a picture with Mr. Madhavan.